what I'm freaking talking about.
Fireworks, folks. New leader, 17 pounds and 5 ounces for Hunter Sales, the head coach of the Carson Newman fishing team.
All right, guys, what is up? Hopefully you watched the day 1 video and you're here to check out how days 2 and 3 went. We got on some largemouth early on day 1 and late in the day figured out a deal with some smallmouth. And so as day 2 started, I knew I was starting on smallmouth. You see my front deck here, there's no bait cast rods out. We were making the long trek out near Port Austin to start day 2. Wind was a little questionable, it was blowing a little bit. You can see here on the run, camera's getting wet. It's sped up 15,000 times in this video. We had a long run. It took us about 2.5 hours to get out there, but the plan was to, once we got there, was to stay on the juice all day long and see what kind of weight we could come up with. I was in a good spot after the first day, but knew I needed that same weight, if not a little bit better, every day to get paid, and hopefully we could put together one of those mega bags out on Lake Huron and really make a run at the top 10. You'll probably notice that throughout this video, I'm not doing as much talking to the camera as I would on a normal tournament. That was partially coupled from the fact that I was stunned after a 2.5 hour run and some pretty good waves. Also, I didn't have a lot of fishing time. I had to make it happen pretty quick, and so definitely was kind of thinking business as we rolled out on day 2. I was throwing a drop shot at them, a couple different baits. Was throwing the Geecrack, Kemushi a little bit. I hope I said that right. That definitely got some of my better bites, but I was kind of starting to run out of those baits, and so I was mixing in, a Berkley flatworm as well. Seemed the bigger size seemed to get a few of those better bites. A 3-pounder this week was a really good one, and you can see, battling the waves. Definitely, having to battle out here to get a quality bite. I want you to pay attention throughout this video. One of the things that I think was a big difference maker between me and a lot of the people around me was how I was fishing this drop shot. And I'm going kind of quick because once I got there, I caught a lot of fish all day long. You'll see a lot of the little ones that I catch, but really pay attention to, I was dead sticking that drop shot and throwing it out on a fish on live scope and then letting it lay almost completely motionless until that fish would notice the bait, swim up to it, and inhale it. And you'd feel a light tick of the rod, reel set into them, and it was pretty much history from there. Throwing a number 2 Hayabusa drop shot hook, I definitely didn't lose many fish at all. It's funny, as fishermen, we all struggle to remember what we had for dinner last night, but I remember this exact bite as I edit this video, 3 months, 4 months after the fact. I remember I saw this fish swimming up super high in the water column, something that wasn't really happening a lot on this fishery this week, but something I've seen on a lot of other, especially southern fisheries. A fish that was up high, cruising pretty fast, and I threw that Kemushi at him, and he ran it straight to the bottom, and that's when you see me kind of sitting there checking him because I thought he had it. Definitely bite that I had here on this second day, one that I really needed to land. I said I was throwing a number 2 Hayabusa, which I was on my flatworm. On this Kemushi, it's a lot thicker bait. So I was actually throwing I believe it was a 1/0 FPP Straight Shank Hayabusa hook, and once again, I love that hook. Hayabusa, some of those products that I used back when I fished with my friend Skylar Hamilton, and I really just got hooked on them. Definitely believe in those products.
Bad when you're calling that a good one on a Great Lakes tournament. Been a little bitty today though. 5. Number 3.
watched any of my videos over from Pickwick, my top 10 finish there, this video might crack you up a little bit. Fat Cat Newton would be having a ball right now commentating this if he was live. I take forever to fight my fish sometimes, and this was one of those situations when I was editing this. I was like, man, thankfully I wasn't live this day. I will say also regarding that, and I say this in every video that I'm throwing a spinning rod, but man, my advice to somebody, if you're just learning how to throw a spinning rod and you don't throw it a lot, once you get that fish pegged, the only key to not losing that fish is just to keep constant pressure on it. And so if you can loosen your drag way up, keep constant pressure on that fish, you know, just reel, let him tire himself out, especially if you can't use a net, you know, like we are in these tournaments. You want, when he comes up beside the boat, you want your first grab at him to be successful. And so take your time, let him tire himself out, keep pressure on that fish, and he's just not going to come off. And so that's my reasoning for it. I know that armchair quarterbacks probably eat me up on these though.
Afraid this 6-pound line all too bad. Gosh dang, man. Sprayed it up. Seaguar Tatsu. Got him flooding the boat. Not a big one, it's my best one yet though. 3-pounder.
Notice a little change of scenery here as this day goes on. I started where I caught those fish on day one, and the size really wasn't there. And so as the day went on, I eased out further and further out into the lake, which is also further away from takeoff. And as you can see, as wind started to pick up here, man, I really wanted to get to my target weight and get out of here pretty quick to make sure I got back. I also say with fighting some of these fish, man, you had no idea how big they were until you saw them, and they all pull so hard. But you can kind of see as the scenery changes. You know, I'm working my way out more towards the mouth of Huron here. probably the best clip of the week to really illustrate, just because of the angle, on how much I was having to dead stick this bait to get these fish to bite. You can see, you know, I open my bell, let this bait fall to the bottom, and really just let it sit there on this fish as the boat drifts. I wasn't using my trolling motor to do anything besides just keep my live scope on this fish. And the whole goal here was literally just to let that bait lay in front of that fish dead still for as long as I could. And you'll watch, after a long time, he finally picks it up and eats it. you'll notice here at the end of the day, this quality definitely got better. One thing that I learned in the Great Lakes throughout practice and throughout the tournament is if you're not getting bit and bit by the quality of fish that you want to be catching, you need to leave, because once you get around the right size fish, you don't have to coerce them into biting. I mean, it's fast and furious. And so definitely a lesson to anybody going up there for the first time is if it's not happening, you're in the wrong area. The biggest thing that you could take away from this video is the proper technique when you catch a fish on a drop shot that won't be still. How do you unhook that fish quickly without causing a mess and get it back in the lake? That's using your thighs to grab that fish. There's simply no other option. But after that's over, you know, I've got a long run back. I left, I think, about 3.5 hours before I was due back to weigh in, which is an absurd amount of time. But, you know, and that morning it took me 2.5 hours to get out there with the wind and waves. We'll kind of get into in a minute why I'm glad that I gave myself that time. But at the time I was like, man, you know, size isn't getting much better and we got a long ways to go. Let's not risk it on day 2.
Well, we caught a bunch.
All my buddies have already made fun of me for this, so you're not going to hurt my feelings if you do. I'm actually inside of the ramp here, and my motor shut off. Sputtered 2 or 3 times, shut off. My gas gauge showed a little bit over 1/4 of a tank left. I think it had just gotten stuck. I actually ran out of gas within sight of the boat ramp, and got lucky and made it back on time.
stuck for 2 hours. He's been in the water trying to shove his boat out. Yeah, Welcher's motor blew.
Is he right in with somebody?
Yeah, I'm assuming that he is. Someone's going after his truck.
From Blaine, Tennessee, how about it for Hunter Sales? Hold on. Just come on up here. That's all right. Kim, come on up. Go ahead and put them up on the scale. I want you to stand right there. We'll get this drawn up here. That's all right. That's all right. We got you there, and then we'll get it up here real quick. Hold on just a second, Paulie. While we're waiting for that, come right up here. Saw you come in a little bit earlier, right around your check-in time at 4:30, but you having some problems with the boat?
Yeah, I had some adversity today. I think we may actually have good news. I got to go figure that out. But, man, appreciate the NPFL having Yamaha here on staff. I've loved Yamaha's support all season. You know, they make a great motor, but it also means a lot to have a company that will be here and stand behind their product. And so hopefully we can get it back running, get out there tomorrow and catch a few more.
I got a feeling it's going to be happening, brother. Good to see you, Hunter Sales, right there. 14-2, yes, 14-2.
But survived today somehow. Had 14-2, caught smallmouth, switched it up a little bit. A little less than yesterday, but man, given how today went, like, and I made it back, I'll take it 100 times, and you know, got to get rigged back up and make sure this thing's running and go catch them tomorrow.
All right, so rolling out to day 3 in 40th place. That's on the check cut. I knew I needed to catch them a little bit better to stay inside that cut. A little bit more favorable conditions, a little bit less wind on day 3. And unfortunately, somewhere on the long run, whether it was on the way back in on the second day or here on the third day, I had a loose connection with my GoPro. And so that thing started and stopped all day long. I managed to get some footage about midday out here, and luckily a lot of my better fish, and so you can kind of see the conditions change. My techniques really stayed similar. I ended up finding a very special rock out a little bit further into Huron, and honestly, and you'll see this here in this clip, but honestly, I don't think there was a cast for the last 2 hours of my tournament that I didn't get a bite or catch a fish. And so, you know, didn't have any real great big ones, but definitely just pay attention here to how I'm watching my scope, throwing my bait, and then kind of dead sticking it. I know there's a lot to be learned here, and certainly you can enjoy some big smallmouth being caught.
It's a good one, man. Need it again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Little neat wagon. Call it old Boulder Bronco. Let's get some weights on this sucker now. What's all to do? Certainly fast and furious here. You just had to weed through, a bunch of the little bitty ones, and then you'd catch a 3.5 pounder. And so the name of the game was catch as many as you could. I finally took a chance to weigh them here and realized I had, pushing 15 pounds, and I felt a lot better about how day 3 had went compared to the earlier days. If you've stayed with me so far in this video, you deserve this look into my mind right here. It's like, probably not gonna help me. I'm tired of catching these things and unhooking them. Probably just swing, I don't know, man. That could be $6,000. I'm going to get it.
Here on Showdown Saturday. Next to the stage, Carson Newman University fishing head coach from Blaine, Tennessee. Put your hands together for Hunter Sales. What's up? There they are. You worn out? Feel like you've been in a boxing match in the ring. 28-15 on the first 2 days. Got 5 today, got a penalty. We're going to go with this score right here, 14-14, a 3-day total of 43 pounds and 13 ounces. Might be a little bit short, but on the live stream today was just as stingy as yesterday, so you could sneak into that last spot.
Yeah, it's the goal. I set a goal at the start of the year. I was going to get a check in every tournament. Obviously, going in this one, AOY, I was doing really well. But after the week I had, if I can sneak out of here with a check, I'd be tickled to death. And I don't feel like I went it through a boxing match. I actually feel like I just ran like 3 hours to Port Austin. But yeah, it's rough out there. But this place is a lot of fun. You guys don't know what you've got. Thanks to Bay City for having us. Thanks to all the people that make it possible. Once again, Yamaha got me back running yesterday. 100%. I'm running a Skeeter Yamaha this year and really appreciate their tournament support, man. It's huge for us anglers having people here to help us get going.
Absolutely. We'll see you back there in Tennessee next.
What is up, guys? Man, Rayan just wrapped up, ended up in 34th place.
feel like I dang beat myself up pretty bad and running. I don't even know how far. I guess it was like 60 miles. I ran out of gas yesterday, actually, within sight of the ramp. Was very fortunate to be able to make it back in time. But man, running a long way every day. Figured that deal out during the tournament. You know, I didn't practice that east bank. It was protected from the wind, and so I slid over there because I knew the largemouth stuff wouldn't really work when the water got muddied up on the west side. And so did the same thing I was doing on the west bank on the east bank, and caught me a limit for 12 or 13 pounds, and then went to practice. And I found enough to get me through the tournament, get me paid, get me some good AOY points. I don't think we shot ourselves in the foot. Lost 16 points to the leader there, and so going to be looking to like 30 points back going into Florida. And very, very possible to still make up that deficit. So that dream's still alive. Tournament's over, got paid, still accomplishing my goal. We're 4 tournaments in, I've got paid in all 4, and so definitely a blessed week. My equipment, man, did great. Yamaha, having a service trailer on site to get me back up and going yesterday was a big deal. It's funny, I thought something, I'll tell on myself a little bit. I thought my lower had went out because my gas gauge still showed I had gas, but I was actually out of gas, so that was good to know. But my boat held together perfectly, running through some big water, took the waves really well. The key to that stuff, man, everybody gets in a hurry and breaks stuff. If you'll just slow down and take your time, you can really get anywhere you want to go. And so overall, just a really blessed week. Happy to leave Michigan with a check and some points. Appreciate y'all keeping up with me.